Now, guys, we got to check in with Candace Owens, the podcasting sensation and YouTube superstar, whose wild web of conspiracy theories and very serious accusations surrounding the Charlie Kirk assassination, which she does not believe the official story at all and thinks it was some sort of plot between the U.S. military, the Trump administration, France, Egypt, maybe Israel, and more. Yeah, well, her allegations that she continues to make are crumbling because she's demanding receipts from the people she's accusing, and they're finally starting to provide them to debunk her, which honestly, I can understand not even wanting to do that, because if somebody makes a wild accusation against you with no evidence, it's not really on you to prove yourself innocent. It's on them to prove that you did something wrong in the first place. However, given how viral her content is and how many millions of people are tuning into it, these people are getting inundated with messages and hate and harassment to the point where they feel that it is necessary. So the latest example of this comes from Cabot Phillips, who is a conservative journalist that works at the Daily Wire, and I believe may have dated Erica Kirk in the past. But at the very least, he's kind of tied up in this web of accusations that Candace has made because she, involving her guest Mitch Snow, which is, I believe, a fake name, Candace has weaved this story, this web of a story involving this military base, Fort Huachuca, where she had this witness on her show, and he claimed that he had witnessed a top secret meeting involving Turning Point's head of security, involving this Cabot Phillips guy, and a congressman and other people. And Cabot Phillips has come out and proven that he was, in fact, not at the military base and was home in Nashville during all of this, despite Candace very explicitly publishing and basically endorsing, maybe not 100%, but promoting as if it's true and serious and credible, this guy's accusation that Cabot was on this military base and participated in some of these shady meetings. Well, he has come out and provided a response. So he put on X, my response to @RealCandaceOwens: I was not at Fort Huachuca on 9/8 or 9/9. I've never been. I was home in Nashville both days. On the afternoon of the 8th, I attended an ultrasound with my wife and stopped to get balloons for a gender reveal with our son that evening. It's a boy, if anyone was wondering. Congrats, Cabot. The following morning, I was at work as usual. Here are photos and surveillance footage below to, quote, prove my whereabouts. And he said, go touch some grass, folks. You are being lied to. And he actually did attach some surveillance footage of him coming in and out of a building, I believe 9 a.m. in the morning on that Tuesday, 9/9. Remember, that meeting was supposed to have taken place on the 9th. And then also several photos of him with his family and one of him at a store that have metadata and are timestamped. So he actually provided receipts and provided an alibi. Now, of course, Candace also recently suggested, and we covered this yesterday, that providing an alibi is itself suspicious, like shows that you are worried that people are thinking you're going to do something. But she's also said in the past that if you aren't willing to explain your whereabouts and to answer your questions and provide receipts, that's suspicious. So it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. And many of this, you could also call it a Kafkaesque trap, actually. So anyway, Cabot has come out and provided these receipts, and as a responsible journalist and commentator, Candace Owens immediately corrected the record and said, guys, I'm sorry for platforming and promoting and suggesting that Cabot was involved in this meeting. Clearly that was wrong. I apologize for them. Just kidding. She didn't do any of that. She immediately doubted the veracity of this stuff that he provided. So she wrote on Twitter, for everyone new to how iPhone metadata works, you can change this easily on every photo you can capture. I just want Cabot to text this over to me so we can be done with this. So it's like, you really can never win. You can never keep up with all this. If you provide the receipts, she'll just question the receipts. If you don't provide the receipts, she'll say that proves you're guilty. If you do provide them, she won't believe them and she'll say you're guilty. Because now somebody else pointed this out on social media, but between the congressman, the head of Turning Point USA Security, and Cabot, 3 for 3 have provided as much of an alibi as they can. In the congressman's case, he's literally on video in DC when they say he was seen at this military base. But the Turning Point guy has shown flights that showed him in and out of Dallas. And technically, I guess he could have secretly flown and gone and back just in time if he raced. But so 3 for 3, these people have provided alibis, and Candace and her fans don't believe their alibis and just find like any wiggle room or possibility that they could have been there. So it's like, well, then what was the point of even demanding that they provide them if you were never going to believe any of it and ever correct your story? It's an unfalsifiable hypothesis at that point, and it's not critical thinking or just asking questions. Now, the thing about this particular instance that is so remarkable and so just delicious in terms of tea and in terms of kind of the insanity of this finally getting exposed is that Cabot decided to text it all to Candace so she can look at the metadata herself. So he sent it to her and said, "I trust you'll correct the record with your audience. Dig into the metadata all you want. Thumbs up emoji." And he sent her the actual images. Now, did she correct this? Did she apologize to Cabot? Not on social media, where she's making all these public statements. Maybe she will on her show. I doubt it, though. I don't hold your breath waiting for that to happen, because you might pass out, and that's actually kind of unsafe. But anyway, so she responded on Twitter. "Update, Cabot Phillips has responded to my text to clarify matters. We weren't imagining things. His beard didn't magically grow overnight, as some suggested. He pre-recorded the segment a few days earlier, and then it was released on the 8th. Not atypical if someone goes on vacation." Now, this is in reference to a different thing where somebody had tried to use Daily Wire videos that were published with Cabot as an alibi for him, but they were pre-recorded. So that's not actually an alibi. Anyway, she says, "He did coincidentally go away over an extended weekend, not to Arizona, but to New York City with his brothers from Friday through to early Monday. Entirely unclear why he couldn't just respond to my text, since I messaged him in earnest before we punished any claims at all." So she didn't admit that he wasn't at the Fort Huachuca meeting that she said is the key to everything and proves the military killed Charlie Kirk and all this. And she won't even admit that Mitch Snow has now clearly been debunked. At least 2 of the identifications of people he saw at this totally super duper real meeting that absolutely happened have been shown to be untrue. She won't acknowledge that. She didn't apologize. She didn't correct anything really. She's just kind of shifting the goalposts and then victim blaming him for not responding to her crazy accusations soon enough, or as if the burden is on him again to prove his own innocence. It is not, Candace. It's on you to prove the veracity of serious accusations you are making when you are accusing people of engaging in some murder, conspiracy, cover-up plot. How does that even need to be said? We don't believe in this like innocent until, or guilty until prove yourself innocent mentality in America. It's crazy. It's culty. It's psycho. All of this is craziness. And I'm sure Candace will have a spin for this on her show. And then what she's going to do now that this Fort Huachuca storyline has fallen apart, just like her storyline about the Egyptian planes that were supposedly tracking Erica Kirk. Then when people checked her data, most of it was wrong. And she was defining tracking Erica Kirk as just like passing in and out of the state within plus or minus 3 days, I think. So when that fell apart, that she'd told us was key to her whole theory, she moved on to this Fort Huachuca thing, this wild story with Mitch, the whistleblower, and the super duper real meeting that he observed, that now that the alibis are coming out and that story is totally falling apart, she's going to do 2 things. She's going to use the proof that people are mad at her as proof that she's somehow right, which I always find hilarious. This like, well, they only get mad at you when you're over the target. Okay, was Osama bin Laden right then? Because a lot of people got mad at him after 9/11. It's like, actually, sometimes people are mad at you because you're actually in the wrong, not because you're over the target. And 2, she's going to move on to something else and just never really address this like she promised. And we're still waiting on this. She absolutely explicitly said she would release updated data confirming the Egyptian plane thing on her website. That was weeks ago now. And she's just moved on and talks about other stuff. It's this never-ending cycle of shifting the goalposts as people prove you wrong. So then it's like, how do you even engage with this stuff? Because it's not actual investigations or actual reporting or journalism, because that is something that responds to facts and adapts accordingly, but isn't constantly shape-shifting to move on to the next storyline. This is like the plot of a shitty soap opera daytime soap. It's not an actual investigation that you say you care about into the murder of your friend, which you're not equipped to do. You're not an investigative journalist. You're not a law enforcement official. You don't know how to investigate anything other than like whether Brigitte Macron has a penis. And even that, you haven't really proven anything. So I'm just tiring of this, but millions of people are not. They're still earnestly trusting Candace Owens. And that's why people are like, you keep talking about Candace Owens. I'm like, all right, well, she's still got one of the top podcasts in the world. So until that changes, and until she stops being such a massively influential voice to millions of people, yeah, I'm going to keep talking about her and keep pushing back on her conspiracies and coverage, because somebody has to. And for a long time, people were kind of scared to, honestly, but I have from the beginning. In fact, I've been blocked by her on Twitter since like literally 2018 or 19, or way long ago, because I was calling BS on her from the very beginning, because there were always signs that she was a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and not an honest broker. But she's certainly changed. She's certainly gotten worse. There's really no denying that. But yeah, it's just, if she won't at least admit to a mistake like this, when it has been close to conclusively proven, in my view, that the congressman she implicated and Cabot Phillips, who she implicated, were not at this military base participating in this meeting or being seen on the 8th in the way that Mitch Snow alleges. If she won't admit to that mistake, like she hasn't admitted to many of her other mistakes, but again, then people have to stop trusting her. Because as journalists and as pundits, like, we all do make mistakes. We're human. We're biased. We have our own biases. And also the information ecosystem that we're operating in is constantly changing and unclear. But the sign of integrity is admitting those mistakes and being upfront and striving for accuracy, not trying to save face by just ignoring when you get things wrong or making excuses or spinning it and moving on to the next thing. That is fundamentally dishonest, but it is unfortunately par for the course. Yeah, that's the phrase. Par for the course at this point for Candace Owens. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Make sure to subscribe, like, yada, yada, yada.